I haven't done this before. Have somebody on as a guest, so this is kind of exciting.
Oh, it's fun. I assume my brother Tom.
I was sent this photo album from over 80 years ago to see if I could figure out who it belonged to and maybe even get it back home. I wasn't sure how it would go because without a name or address written somewhere on or in it, I knew it wouldn't be easy. Most people don't and didn't write their names on their own photo albums. But let's see if there's enough here to get this thing back home.
Dad told us some things about his childhood. When we would complain about the food, he'd say, "Be happy you got food. We didn't have food when I was a kid," and stuff like that. But I was told as a boy, don't ask Dad about his childhood. It makes him sad. He had a very hard childhood.
Future James here, and I wanted to punch in to tell you that this is a very special episode of Forgotten Lines because this is the very first one, hopefully of many, where I actually have the chance to interview somebody who was directly related to someone from one of the pictures that I found. So not only did I figure out who this photo album belonged to, but I found the family, got it back to them, and one of them was more than happy to come on and talk to us and share a few stories and insights about his dad. And also, this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. More on that later, but be sure to stick around for my interview with Walter Biber III. My name is James, and I've been a genealogist now for over 10 years. And I started this channel as a way to share my curiosities with other people who might have the same questions I do. When I see a picture in an antique shop or a restaurant, I tend to think to myself, I wonder who that is. I wonder what their story is. Well, since I started this channel, I've received a lot of emails and requests. And this one was from Mr. John Carter, who found this photo album in an antique booth in southern Florida. He reached out to me and offered to send it along to kind of pass the torch so that I could pick up where he left off and figure out who it belonged to and maybe get it back into the family. And I said, sure, why not? Let's try it. A comment I get a lot is, do I try to get the pictures back into the families that they belong to? And the answer is yes, I always try. But not always is there a descendant who cares, who wants the picture back, or will even respond to me. Sometimes they just ignore the messages because I'm a stranger. The stories I tell about people are based on public information. Usually it's vital statistics and demographics, and occasionally a newspaper or obituary. Sometimes we get lucky with notes on the backs of pictures and postcards and that sort of thing. But very rarely do I get the opportunity to talk to somebody who knew the person, like their son. So let's see what we can figure out from this album that is full of names, dates, locations, and little tidbits of clues. And is it enough to find who it belonged to and get it back home? So first impression is it's very old. It's leather bound. And it's got a very hard leather cover, and it's bound together with twine. The pages are a black paper with the photos glued or stuck or taped to the pages. Now, if it's your own album, it is possible to gently peel the pictures off and try to find something on the backs of them. I don't really recommend it unless you're just desperate to find a little bit more information, because you're most likely going to rip the picture or damage the book. So I don't recommend doing that, but it is possible. People did write things on the backs of them before sticking them into the photo album. We're not going to do that with this one. I sat down with the album and put together a list of all the names and locations so that I could try to map something out and find a connection. Most of the pictures are labeled and they have names on them. The question is, are any of the names the name of the person who owned this book? It's hard to tell, so let's see if we can find out. We've got Roy Baker, Vern Baker, and my mother. Now, was this a close friend, stepfather? Don't know. We'll come back. Aunt Kate, stepfather and brother, Julia, Uncle Leo, Aunt Anna, Uncle John, Aunt Helen, Fran with a note that says in love. There's several locations, Lakeland, Lansing, and even Okinawa. I started with Roy Baker. It was the name written on a picture of a boy, and with Vern Baker. It was the only two recurring last names in the album. But I didn't get very far, so I had to take another look. 1929 and 1933. Could be the same kid 4 years apart. Here's a group photo of basketball players with French on their shirt. What school was that? In the next picture, that gets cleared up. FJHS. And after a small bit of Googling in the Lansing, Michigan area, that is apparently Walter French Junior High School, which was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2014. There are some pictures labeled Country Club of Lansing. Our mystery owner was into golf, and as we will find out later, he was more than just a little into golf. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to see more of these kinds of adventures, be sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below if a photo album like this looks familiar to you and you've got a story or two to tell about it. We love to hear about those things. And if you feel like I missed something in the research in this video, be sure to leave a comment about that too. It's a lot easier to learn when there's lots of people picking at it. Also, if you bought a t-shirt or a coffee mug from the shop, I want to give a huge thank you. The company that I use to make those things and ship them out doesn't leave room for me to leave a personalized note, so I don't get to send a little thank you to all of them. But if you're watching this video and you made a purchase, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Now, it looks like whoever it is moved to Lakeland, Florida in 1939. And this photo says, folks we should never forget, Mr. and Mrs. Alderman. I'm not sure why the note is there, but now it's stuck on a YouTube video for a whole lot more people to see and I guess remember them in a kind of way. Skipping ahead a bit, here is Fran Kelly. And there are a few pictures of her, including this one I really like. In Love, 1940, which is taken in a Rexall drugstore. It looks like our mystery person was in love with Fran. Did they get married? Let's see if we can find that out too. Moving on to these basic training photos, we catch a break. This photo, Junior Brabs and myself. Myself is our guy. Presumably. We at least have a face now, and if needed, we could try to match it to high school graduates from the Lansing, Michigan area, but that would be tedious and very time-consuming, and in our case, unnecessary, because 2 pages away, we have Private Walter Biber. He looks an awful lot like myself. And this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and also this guy, and this guy. I think we got him. Let's build a quick tree in Ancestry and put all the pieces together and see if it makes sense. So we can start the tree with Walter Biber in Lansing, Michigan, born around 1920, 1919, somewhere in there, given when he was at high school. And the 1940 census confirms it. Vern Baker, living with his wife Clara, and stepson Walter Biber and son Leroy Baker. We've got Vern, Walter, and Roy all in the same house in Lansing, Michigan in 1940. At this point, it might be safe to assume that Clara was Walter's mom. But she's not. She is Vern's third wife. And Walter's marriage certificate to Fran is what tells us who his real mom is. Take a look. I really love these detailed marriage certificates. This even lists their jobs. Fran's job is a drugstore clerk. I'm willing to bet she worked in that Rexall drugstore that she was hanging out in with Walter. But it also states Walter's birth mom's name, Helen Pogorzelski. Pogorzelski. I think I got that. She and Walter's biological father, Walter Biber Sr., married in 1917 and divorced 3 years later in 1920. So she remarried to Vern Baker sometime between 1920 and 1925. But Walter's beautiful mother suddenly died of a brain embolism on May 8th, 1925. She was only 27 years old, and Walter was only 8. Vern married Clara in 1926, and that's who appears as Vern's wife on the 1940 census. When Walter and Fran got married in 1943, the newspaper ran an article about them. Newspapers are a great resource for family history because they help tie together names and confirm connections. Here it says he is the nephew of Mr. and Mrs. John Romanek on 628 Smith Avenue. This is 100% match to his World War II draft card, which we can also pull up. Walter Biber living on 628 Smith Avenue with his Uncle John and Aunt Kate. What's really cool is he has a few pictures of himself during his deployment to Okinawa, like this one from an A-bomb shelter. And here is Walt sitting on top of either a 500 or 1,000-pound bomb. I like this one too. Walt's first car, and it's parked outside Rexall's pharmacy. I wonder how much time he spent there hanging out with Fran. I've only ever owned metal bed frames, so I've only ever experienced noisy beds. No matter how much I tighten the screws, those squeaks and rattles have always driven me nuts. So when FlexiSpot offered to send us a new bed frame, we were more than ready to have it. Especially since the table they sent a few months ago has been nothing but awesome. They sent us a Japanese joinery bed. I didn't know what that meant at first, but I loved what I found out. It's a traditional woodworking method where the joints interlock and are held together with pressure. So no screwdrivers. And instead of screws, Velcro holds the frame slats in place, which cuts down on the noise even more. Now, I prefer slats over a box spring any day because box springs are just too high for what I like, and I don't really like climbing up into bed. The legs are inward recessed, which ensures the frame sits close to the wall even with your baseboards. It has a beautiful natural look that it gets from being rubber wood. It's not only stronger, but it's also moisture and scratch resistant because of its protective finish. Bed frames are expensive for some reason, but FlexiSpot keeps it reasonable compared to the others we've passed up before. I am blown away by their customization and quality, because when I buy something, I want to see quality and strong customer service, and they have only impressed me so far. Click the link below to experience the FlexiSpot bed frame for yourself. And don't miss out. Use our exclusive code LINES to get an extra $20 off the Kana Japanese Joinery Bed or U3 Hybrid Mattress. FlexiSpot Black Friday sale is officially live, so enjoy discounts up to 80% off. Transform your sleep with comfort, convenience, and unmatched value. Now, a little later on, according to his obituary, he was a professional golfer at the Kalamazoo Country Club for 27 years before retiring in 1976. Then he became the owner and co-manager of Ridgeview Golf Course until he died in 1996. And by my count, he played golf for about 60 years. This photo album belonged to a pro golfer, World War II veteran, husband of Fran Kelly, and son of Helen, Walter Biber Jr. I found Walter's granddaughter, and she told me that Walter's son is still alive. I sent them a few pictures of the album, and apparently he had never seen a picture of his grandmother before because she died while Walter was only 8 years old, so he never got a chance to see a picture of her, and now he has. So that's kind of fun. So up next, I'm going to mail this out.
Yeah, I haven't done this before. Have somebody on as a guest, so this is kind of exciting.
Oh, it's fun.
You know,
I assume my brother Tom, who was the original owner of Ridgeview Golf Course, who you said you had reached out to, he lived in Florida until he died in 2020, and I assume this came from his estate. Somebody found it there.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Had you seen? I sent you a few pictures. Had you seen anything from that album before? Had you seen that album before at all?
You know, my first thought when I think Amanda, I don't recall if it was you or Amanda sent me the pictures. My first reaction was that I'd never seen my grandmother before. But as I looked at the pictures, I'm quite sure that I saw some of them, particularly the pictures of Dad in training in the Army with a rifle and the picture of Mom outside the drugstore. I was pretty sure I saw those, so I probably saw the album many years ago.
And it was a little bit harder to figure it out because, of course, people don't really write their own names on their photo albums and stuff.
Yeah.
Usually it's just, this is mom, this is dad kind of
Yeah.
thing.
How did you find out that it was Biber?
So in the album, one of them is labeled. He
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
wrote at the bottom of it, Private Walter Biber.
Oh,
And
okay.
and then it didn't mean much because a lot of the pictures were named by somebody, but I noticed
Yeah.
that one guy looked just like the same guy throughout the whole album.
Gotcha.
And then once I ran on that hunch, it kind of all came together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was really cool that your mom, Fran, I'm guessing, right?
Yes.
How she worked at the pharmacy. Do you know more
Right.
about how your mom and dad met?
I don't know a lot of details. I just know that Dad was a customer there, and he got chatting. They were about the same age, and they got chatting. And Dad loved to dance, the boogie woogie. In fact, they went to here on their honeymoon. They went to see Tommy Dorsey, and back when they were chatting, he found out that Mom loved to dance. So he immediately asked her out, and Dad was not shy about that kind of thing. And Dad said as soon as they went dancing, he knew that she was the girl for him.
Refresh my memory. They were married pretty much during wartime, right? Like
Right. They like a lot of people. They got married before Dad went overseas. My in-laws were the same thing. They were married a couple of months apart, and just before both of the men went overseas. So they got married in September of 1943, and then Dad shipped out to Okinawa. I don't actually know when he came back from Okinawa. He was there after the island had been taken. Dad was in supply, and he ran a warehouse. And I've actually been back to Okinawa, and the pictures that Dad has, it's a barren island. It had been bombed, and there were no trees.
oh, wow.
Now it's a lush island. And I don't know exactly when he came home, but he got out of the Army in early 46. He was in California for a while. My understanding was that a colonel kept Dad in California for a while so that Dad could give him golf lessons.
Uh,
He should have.
that's funny. Yeah, it was pretty quick to notice that he was an avid golfer. Lots of pictures of golfing and
Yeah,
lots of guys and things.
Dad was an orphan during the Depression, was very poor. He got involved in golf as a caddy, and the caddies one day a week could play, and he immediately fell for golf. He was in Lansing at the time after his mother died, which was shortly after that picture that you saw.
Hmm.
He was bounced around from relative to relative. None of the families had money, and they were often hungry.
Oh,
And Dad sold newspapers before grade school in order to buy breakfast. He would show up late every day for school. Um, he'd stay out till he sold his papers, but he would give the nun, he'd walk into school, give the nun a newspaper, and she was okay with it. Anyway, so Dad became a caddy, and then in Lansing at Lansing Country Club, and worked his way up to assistant pro there. And to the day he died, was thought of the original pro there, his first boss, as sort of a father figure. Dad
oh wow.
slept. He slept in the attic above the clubhouse, and basically lived at the golf course.
And that was when was he living there as a kid?
That was the picture that you saw. There's a picture in there, 1937.
Hmm.
Dad would have been 20. That was him outside one of the buildings at the Lansing Country Club.
And he was living there at the time in the attic.
Yes, yeah. He
Wow.
got he had no money, and didn't pay much, so they put him up. He slept up in the attic. You know what Dad said to me many times? There was a time as a boy when I had the opportunity for things to go really badly.
Yeah.
And I don't know the details of that, but he sort of, I think, was walking that line like the other guy did.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if it was golf or the nuns or one of the relatives who saved him. I don't know. But he remained grateful to that pro and to his aunts who took him in, and until the day he died. We used to go visit them.
That's really
And
nice.
then Mom, and when he met Mom, um, her family sort of became the first family he ever really had. He was 8 when his mother died. and he never knew his father. He thinks he met his father once for about 5 seconds. I know nothing about. I'm Walter the Third. Dad was Junior, and his father was Walter Edward Biber. And all I know is that his father abandoned his mother either while she was pregnant with Dad or just after Dad was born. So he never knew him. But when Dad was in California in the service, one day some of his buddies came over and said, "Walt, you got to go meet this lady over in such and such a building. Her name is Biber, and she looks just like you." So he went over and had a chat with her, and it turned out her father's name was Walter Edward Biber, and he was from Michigan. So they concluded that they were half brother and sister. And then Dad went over and introduced himself to her father. When he opened the door, he introduced himself. And the man said, "I have no son in Michigan. Stay away from my daughter," and slammed the door. And Dad always thought that was the only time he ever saw his dad. And I Googled Walter Biber once and found Social Security records. There was a Walter Biber from Michigan who then went to Texas and then went to California. And that's all I know about him.
Yeah, his Walter E. Biber was born. I've already got a little bit on him.
Oh, okay.
He was born June 11th, 1891 in Lansing, and
Okay.
I'm looking at my notes right now.
Yeah.
And then he died in San Francisco, November 22nd, 1956.
Yeah. And that was when Dad was in San Francisco. So that sort of confirms that, yeah, that really was his dad. And Dad, I never met that lady, his half sister. She was in California. But I know they would correspond and exchange Christmas cards, but never really got to know each other that well.
That is something else. Yeah, according to Find a Grave, it says he was in the second lieutenant in the Air Service in World War One.
Yeah, I would assume that would be World War One. Yeah.
Buried in Golden Gate National Cemetery is where
Oh,
this is.
I was probably very close there a few years ago. We were at the Golden
Oh,
Gate
okay.
Park.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So he didn't ever know his dad. That answers that question. I was really wondering how
Yeah.
if he knew anything about whatever happened to him or why he split or anything like that. Um,
Yeah. In fact, I've got Walter Biber the three on my driver's license. Michigan requires that because that's what's on my birth certificate. So for a while, when I was a teenager, I started using Walter Biber the third, and my older brothers admonished me, "No, Walter Biber the first was a creep. Don't acknowledge that he even existed." So I went back to Junior, which is to this day caused me some problems with immigration because some of my documents say Junior and some say the third, and I almost didn't get on a plane once because of that. I mean, Dad told us some things about his childhood. When we would complain about the food, he'd say, "Be happy you got food. We didn't have food when I was a kid," and stuff like that. But I was told as a boy, don't ask Dad about his childhood. It makes him sad. He had a very hard childhood. So I don't know a lot of details about it. But I know that he did say that he always referred to him as Baker, that Baker treated him and his mom well. But Dad, as far as I know, once his mom died, didn't have any contact with Mr. Baker.
and
Yeah.
what was his personality like? Was he a funny guy, a stoic guy? What was he like?
He was anxious. He was the pro at Kalamazoo Country Club, which was my childhood. I was 3 when he got the job. Um, he was there for 27 years, and they made him an honorary member when he retired, and he played there until he died and was friends with members. Every year he worried they were going to fire him.
Oh wow.
And mom kept saying, "Walt, they give you a raise every year. They're not going to fire you." But he had that background. He was an orphan during the depression, and he remained anxious. He was also quite funny. He was very competitive. He was very good with people, and I don't know if that came from his thing in sales as a newsboy. He knew what was important in that kind of a job. We all worked for him. And the kinds of things he would tell us that I remember is he explained to us what our job was. And the way he explained it to us is these people work very hard and they're under a lot of pressure all week. This is a place they come to relax, and our job is to help them do that and make it pleasant for them. And that's how he explained the job. The technical stuff of it, we learned from the other guys. And the other thing he said was he was very competitive and he really loved golf, and he really got upset when he wouldn't play well. He would be depressed all day if he didn't play well. But he also told us there was a pro, Tommy Bolt, who was famous for throwing clubs. And one day, I think Tommy Bolt threw a club on TV, and Dad looked at the three boys, and he said, "If I ever see you throw a club like that, you will never play golf at the Kalamazoo Country Club again. Your behavior reflects on my job." And we all knew that he meant it. So he was very serious about that kind of thing. And I remember him giving us a lecture, and I don't know why it came up, but the idea of cheating in golf, which is really easy to do if you're not a pro. I mean, they got a million people watching them, but you know, when you're out playing with four guys, you're often off by yourself and you move the ball a little bit, nobody knows. And Dad pointed out it's really easy to cheat at golf, except you'll know.
Yep.
And you'll know that you really didn't have that score. And you really played for your own enjoyment, for you to know how well you played. And those kinds of lessons, those are the kinds of things.
In his golfing, was he? Did he ever get a hole in one? I tried to find that out. He did.
Yes, at Kalamazoo Country Club on the 12th hole, and with a Titleist golf ball. And I know that because at that time, anybody who got a hole in one with a Titleist golf ball, if you sent it in, they would mount it on an ashtray. And so you'd have a big ashtray with your hole in one ball. And so that was in our family room for years. I still, to this day, Dad's been gone 30 years. And when I'm playing and I play badly, I often have the thought, damn, I wish Dad was here. He could fix this. And we were hitting balls. Dad had his back to me hitting balls, and I hit one. And he said, "Wally, you're doing this." And I said, "How do you know? You got your back to me." And he said, "I could tell by the way it sounded."
Golly.
And I did what he told me, and it fixed it. He really understood the golf swing, and he was a good teacher. And I've still got, Dad's been retired for 47 years now, but occasionally I'll still meet someone and they'll ask if he was my dad, and they'll tell me that he taught him the game of golf.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lasting impression.
Dad had some funny sayings. In fact, the day he died, my daughter was 10, and a couple hours after we got the news that he'd passed away, she was upstairs sitting on the bed running through Grandpa's sayings that she had learned. And one was Toasty. He called toast Toasty. And one day on our trip to Florida for the family vacation in a Howard Johnson's, I think in Georgia, for breakfast, he ordered Toasty. And we were all embarrassed. So we went to Florida, had our vacation. On the way back, we stopped at the restaurant, and the waitress said, "Will you be having Toasty?" So, I mean, nothing big, just silly stuff like that. My mom was more the one with a sense of humor. She just had it, but she had a real dry sense of humor. She was a good partner for Dad, but she was different. She would be very sociable in a setting, and people liked her, but she was much more reserved. And where Dad was more of a talker, and if he made a joke or said something funny, it would be more, more flamboyant. Mom's was just more of a real dry sense of humor. And I can't think of a particular thing now. And Mom was home and family oriented. She's from an Irish family, and she was very close with her dad and stayed close with her sisters. Lost a brother to leukemia shortly after she met Dad. And I just remember her being real focused on the family and didn't like to go out a lot, didn't like to go out on New Year's Eve. And she would go to the club parties with Dad and stuff, and she would seem to have fun, but she preferred being home. Yeah. And I don't know what to say about Mom other than that. She wouldn't make a lot of jokes, but there was a character, Waldo, in a TV show. And after she saw that guy, I became Waldo, and she called me Waldo for the rest. I grew up as Wally, but to Mom, I was Waldo for the rest of my life. Hey, Waldo, let's go play some cards.
There's another picture of Mr. and Mrs. Alderman, labeled "Folks We Shall Never Forget." Did he ever mention the Aldermans?
No, that's a new name to me.
Okay.
I am guessing. I never heard him talk about living in Florida. My guess is they may be somebody, maybe an army buddy or somebody he met who he stayed with when he went down there. I don't know. Or they might have been members up here who had a summer of Florida home.
He's got some pictures in the album of Uncle Leo and Aunt Anna.
Yes, Anna was the sister of Helen.
Okay.
And he stayed with them for a while. And cousin Anna's children, I can only remember one right now, were close with him. And I actually, about 15 years ago, I got a call from Anna's great grandson, who was doing sort of what you're doing, researching his ancestry, and he'd come across the name Walter Biber, but he didn't know how it fit in, but he saw my name. And so he called me up, and I fit him. His grandfather and my father were cousins and were quite close.
There's a good picture of Anna and Leo, so he might like to see that.
Yeah, Leo was a character. He was Leo had bad PTSD. He fought in Italy in World War II, and I don't know the details, just that Dad said Leo saw some really bad stuff.
Oh, okay. 1928, Uncle John.
Uncle John, I never knew. He was one of the people that Dad stayed with. I believe John was Lansing, one of the Lansing people I referred to. And the only thing there's some things I don't want to say. They were very poor.
And you'd be surprised. I've reached out to a lot of people after finding pictures like this, and some of them either think I'm a scam, they think I'm trying to take money from them somehow, or that or they don't care. They don't want the pictures at all. It doesn't matter to them. They're like, well, that I put them in the estate sale. You can keep them.
And some of it is, it may be people they didn't know, or it's like with Tom's estate. I took a few pictures, and I took something to remember Tom. Tom's wife had died 25 years before he died. I took just a couple little remembrances of them, but the photographs and stuff, I had the photographs I wanted, and I didn't really go through them even.
Yeah.
Although I'm glad to get that photograph of Helen Baker, because I don't have one of her, and frankly, I didn't know what she looked like. So that was nice to see.
I'm glad that the album is going back to someone who really cares about it. The delivery.
I was really glad to see it.
That's about the only way now.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome, and I can't thank you enough for actually wanting to talk. And
it was fun. I've enjoyed this whole process.
Well, the photo's back, and this episode should be up next week.
I will look for it. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you.
All right, thanks again. Is it Wally?
And thank you again. Yes, Wally.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot, Wally. I appreciate it.
Take care now.